book of Judges this morning, the book of Judges. And we're actually going to look at, in this group that we've been looking at, we're going to look at 4 different men. For those of you that recall, we looked at Amnon first, and we spoke about how Amnon had a friend. And then last week we looked at David, and David had a place he should have been and a place he should not have been. And we looked at that last week. Well, this week we're going to look at another man. And again, I mean, this is a story, like as soon as I mention his name, if you've already just looked at where we're at in Judges 16, you know the name. It's a very familiar story, and it's unfortunate that it's a very familiar story. I'll say that this morning, well, we said Amnon had a friend, David had a place he should have been, should not have been, and Samson should have heeded the warnings. And I believe that God puts these stories in the Bible for us. Again, and I've said this many times before, and I'll say it, I guess Lord willing, as long as I teach Sunday school, I'll say it many times in the future. But God puts all these stories in the Bible. We just don't read the good things. I mean, if you just read that Samson killed 1,000 Philistines with the jawbone of an ass, but you don't read the other part of the story, Silver, eventually you look and you're like, man, what about me? Like I'm a failure. But God put in the Bible that a just man falleth 7 times, but riseth up again. And that's in the Bible for us to see and for us to understand and for us to look at our own selves and have some introspection and say, man, if someone that was dedicated to God from basically his mother's womb, if you think about it, I'll just go back to chapter number 13. But in chapter number 13, the very first few verses right here, it says, the children of Israel did evil again in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord delivered them into the hand of the Philistines 40 years. There was a certain man of Zorah of the family of the Danites, whose name was Manoah, and his wife was barren and bare not. And the angel of the Lord appeared unto the woman, and said unto her, behold, now thou art barren and bearest not, but thou shalt conceive and bear a son. Now therefore beware, I pray thee, and drink not wine nor strong drink, and eat not any unclean thing. For lo, thou shalt conceive and bear a son, and no razor shall come on his head, for the child shall be a Nazarite unto God from the womb, and he shall begin to deliver Israel out of the hand of the Philistines. And so this angel appears to the woman and tells her, and then I'm not going to read all of it, but then she goes and tells her husband what the angel says, and her husband prays in verse number 8. Then Manoah entreated the Lord and said, O my Lord, let the man of God which thou didst send come again unto us, and teach us what we shall do unto the child that shall be born. And in verse number 11, and Manoah arose and went after his wife and came to meet the man and said unto him, art thou the man that spakest unto the woman? And he said, I am. Manoah said, now let thy words come to pass. How shall we order the child, and how shall we do unto him? So what you see right here, what you see is here is God, and God is making a deliverer, and in the book of Judges, God, the children of Israel, the book of Judges is after Joshua, and so the children of Israel have moved into the promised land, but eventually their hearts start to wander. They start to stray. They start to do wrong things. And so God would send enemies into the land to use the Philistines, or use the Ammonites, or use one of those groups to afflict the children of Israel, to get them to call on God again and repent and come back to God, and then God would deliver them. And so the book of Judges is pretty much defined by like one of the last verses in it, where it says every man did that which was right in his own eyes. But here we have a time where it says that they had been that for 40 years God had used the Philistines to afflict the children of Israel. But now God is raising up a judge. He's raising up someone that is going to, and it says begin to deliver. And in the foreknowledge of God, God understood that Samson was not going to get the job done. He was not going to get the job done. Because Samson was going to make some poor choices. He was going to make some poor choices in his life. But one of the things I want us to see, again, as a warning, I thought about, again, like I said, this was going to be something that I looked at in family camp, but we went in a different direction. But I thought about in family camp, and when I say what I'm about to say, I'm not judging. Y'all have heard my testimony. Y'all know that I was not this way. And so my first ever ride to a church was in a church bus. My first ride to a church was in a church bus, and I didn't get saved till I was 16 years old, and so there were a bunch of years there where I didn't have the same experience that my kids have. My kids, their first ride to church was in their mother's womb. And then from the day they were born, they were brought into church. And from we didn't do like they did in the Old Testament, 8 days circumcision. But you understand. But from the time they were babies, we would bring those babies up there, Brother Justin, and we would dedicate them. We dedicate those children to God. All three babies were dedicated to God. It's like, here, God, you do what you want to with those kids. And I'm not going to say to the best of my ability, because that'd be a lie. But I did try, Brother Justin. I did try to raise my kids up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. I did try. Again, like I said, I'd be lying if I said it was to the best of my ability. But here is Samson, and that's Samson's upbringing. Samson's mother was told, hey, like, don't you drink wine, don't you eat of the fruit of the vine, don't you drink strong drink. That's while he was in the womb. And then Manoah says, hey, we want you, Mr. Angel, we want you to explain to us, how do we raise this child? And truly, the question or the thing is, how do we raise this child for God? How does God want us to raise this child? And so I thought about it. I thought about it in the realm of like I said, all three of my kids have never known anything but church. That's all they've ever known. Brother Justin, for you, like you grew up in church. But again, like I said, I'm not judging other people. I'm not judging y'all. I'm just saying, like some of them have, that's all they've ever known. All they ever knew was preaching, Silver. All they ever knew was Faith Baptist Camp. All they ever knew was camp meeting. We went to a camp meeting in North Carolina this week. And people are like, hey, where's Bub? Where's Bub? Where's Grady? Where's Grady? I'm like, I hate to say it this way. My wife says, she doesn't appreciate how I say it, but logically, this is how I'm looking at it. I'm like, unfortunately, they've kind of aged out. They're to that age now where they're grown up and they're grown men now, and they have jobs, or Grady's in college, and so they have responsibilities, and so they're not homeschooled anymore. With homeschool, it's like road trip. Here we go. We'll do our paces in the motel, which never happened. We'll do our paces in between services, which never happened. But you understand what I'm saying? Like when you're homeschooled, like it's freedom. But then you grow up and you get a job, and it's like, hey, Brother Dakota, can I have today off? What do you mean today off? Well, you can't have today off. We got something to do. And you're like, well, we talked about this 6 months ago, that like I had this coming up. No, we'll deal with that later. We got work to do. And you understand, and that's not just Dakota, that's any boss. I sat across from a man. He was a youth director. Yesterday for lunch, and he was a youth director, and he was talking about he just got married, and so he's trying to balance marriage and youth director, and he has a public job, and he said, I've got these certain meetings that I go to, and I got to leave a little window of my PTO for time, and he said, really, I only have about 3 days that are just days for me. That if I get sick or something happens, I only have like 3 days because all the rest are scheduled to go to meetings to take the youth group to a meeting. And so here's Samson and his parents. His parents had raised him again in our day and age. That they took him to church from the time he was a little baby. Again, they took him before God, and they raised him for God. And he was in Sunday school, and then he went to church Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, revival meetings, and they homeschooled him, and they did everything they could to keep Samson unspotted from the world. Everything they could to keep Samson unspotted from the world. And so when you get just a chapter in chapter number 14, I'm going to give, again, the Bible gives us enough details to understand that, hey, what Samson was doing right here was actually from God. But it gives us a little insight into Samson. In chapter 14, it says, and Samson went down to Timnath and saw a woman in Timnath, the daughter of the Philistines, and he came up and told his father and his mother and said, I have seen a woman in Timnath of the daughters of the Philistines. Now, therefore, get her for me to wife. Now, again, here's Samson and his mom and dad, like Manoah and his wife, have raised him for God, and he is doing this the proper way. He goes to his mom and dad and says, hey, I've seen this girl, and get her. And again, we're talking Old Testament again, but y'all understand. But I've seen this girl, get her for me to wife. And look at his father. And then his father and his mother said unto him, is there never a woman among the daughters of thy brethren, or among all my people, that thou goest to take a wife of the uncircumcised Philistines? And again, like I said, we're gonna see in a second that they didn't understand and that God had a purpose in this. But I can see me as a father being like, what are you doing going to the world to get you a wife? If Bub come home and said, hey, I found this girl. Where'd you find her? At the Walmart. What? You don't find girls at the Walmart. What are you doing? At the Waffle House? Like, they don't even have all their teeth. What are you doing? Like, what are you doing? And so, like, you understand what I'm saying? Like, here comes Samson. He's like, hey, I found this woman. And I'm so excited. All right, Samson, what's her name? Where's she from? What? I raised you, like I homeschooled you, and I did all this stuff, and you're telling me in all the churches and all the places that we've been, there's not a single girl in any of the camp meetings that we've went to, there's not a single girl that you can talk to. But you got to go down to the world and pick one out down there. And I'm not saying Bub does that. I'm just using him because he's sitting here and I can't see Grady because he's behind the computer screen up there. But you understand what I'm saying? Like Felicia, I mean, your boy's about to graduate. I'm sure you and Jerry wouldn't be thrilled if Trey come in and says, hey, I found me one. Where'd you find her at? She works at the whatever. And I'm not saying that every girl that works out in public is wrong. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. But then you find out, like, this girl's never been to church. She has a different God than you have. She's a Philistine. She worships Dagon. She doesn't worship God. She worships a different God, little g God. She worships an idol. She's not raised like you. She doesn't think like you. She doesn't care about your Nazirite vow. She doesn't care about your God, much less your Nazirite vow. She may not like your hair. She may say, cut your hair. That hair looks awful. She doesn't know. She doesn't care. But it was by the design of God that time. So I'll give him a pass. I'll give him a pass. And so from the story, he takes this wife and they have this marriage feast, and he presents this riddle, and the riddle is about the honey and the lion that he had killed, and the Philistines go to her and say, hey, if you don't find out what this riddle is, we're going to burn you and your father's house. And so she just stays after him till finally he tells her the riddle. And then they come and they say, well, this is the answer to the riddle. And he says, if you hadn't plowed with my heifer, in verse number 18 of chapter 14, he says, if you had not plowed with my heifer, you had not found out my riddle. And so he just goes down down the road a little bit and kills 30 men and brings back the 30 changes of garments, says, there you go. You didn't earn it, but there you can have it. And so the girl's father ends up giving his wife, Samson's wife, to his companion. Well, then Samson shows back up. He shows back up to see his wife, and he's like, I thought you hated her, so I gave her to your companion. And so somehow, and again, I don't know how this happened. Like I said, this is one of the things. When we get to heaven, there's a lot of things I want to know. There's a lot of things I want to know. There's a lot of things I want to see. And I would love for God to play back how Samson caught 300 foxes. We've got one fox at the house, and Grady's been trying for about 3 months to catch this fox. Now, he's caught the neighbor's dogs, which fortunately was his cousin's dogs, but he's caught the cousin's dogs about 4 or 5 times. He's caught possums, he's caught raccoons. Brother Tyrone, he's caught all kinds of things in that trap. But he hadn't caught that fox. The other day, the fox was kind of like Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote. Adriana was up there walking the dog, and the fox just went walking right along the fence line like, hey, I'm still here, just so she could call her brother and say, hey, Grady, that fox it's still here. But somehow Grady's been trying to catch one fox for 3 months and hadn't caught one fox, but Samson catches 300 foxes. And he ties their tails together and he sets them on fire and he sends them out into the fields and they burn up everything. And so then the Philistines do what they said they were going to do. Whenever they went and said, hey, find out, they go and they kill his ex-wife and they kill his father-in-law. And so Samson in verse number, I don't have it written down right here, in verse number 8 of 15, it says, in verse number 8, and he smote them hip and thigh with a great slaughter, and he went down and dwelt in the top of the rocky town. So now he smites the Philistines, and he smites them hip and thigh, which is a beautiful saying. But then the Philistines, they go to the children of Israel, and they say, hey, you need to get him or we're going to make it bad on you. We're going to make it bad on you if you don't get him. So they go down and they talk to Samson. 3,000 men of Judah come down to the rock where Samson's at and said, hey, the Philistines said it's basically us or you. And Samson says, all right, I'll make you a deal. If you promise not to fall on me, you can bind me. But as long as you promise not to kill me and take me to him, you can do it. So they wrap him with ropes. They wrap him. They bind his hands. They bind him around his arms. They take him down there to the Philistines. In verse number 14, when he came unto Lehi, the Philistines shouted against him, and the Spirit of the Lord came mightily upon him. And the cords that were upon his arms became as flax that was burnt with fire, and his bands loosed from off his hands. And he found a new jawbone of an ass and put forth his hand and took it and slew 1,000 men therewith. And it's always good preaching. It's always good to think about. I wonder what number 998, 999, number 1,000 we're thinking. Like, you know what? I think we can take him. He's got to be tired. I think we can take him. But anyway, it says, Samson with the jawbone of an ass, heaps upon heaps, with the jaw of an ass have I slain 1,000 men. And so, if you remember, I think I said it last week, but God, David had a great victory, and he was set up for a great fall. Now here's Samson. He's just slain 1,000 men with the jawbone of an ass. He's slain 1,000 men. I don't know about you. Again, I mean, some of y'all probably have, tasted a few knuckles in your life, and probably had some people taste a few knuckles in your life. But ain't none of us whipped 1,000 men. Not in one time. Maybe over a lifetime, but not in one time. In one sitting, Silver, he whipped 1,000 men. And the only thing, when he got done, he said, God, I sure am thirsty. I worked up a little thirst right there on 1,000 men. And so here he had this great victory. I don't know. Like I said, if I whipped 1,000 men, I'd probably get to feeling like I was pretty invincible, Justin. I'd probably get to feeling like I was pretty invincible. Like 1,000 men. The best they had, the baddest they had, like every one of them came at him, and they didn't have anything for him. They should have stayed at the house that day. So you get to chapter number 16, and this is where it's all going to come. It's going to come apart. In chapter number 16, and I was speaking to a man this week at the meeting, and I don't know if y'all get a chance. I don't know if they have the services online or not. If they have the services online and get a chance, and you can hear Saturday morning. It was really good. Preacher got to preach, and he really got to preach. But anyway, I was talking to this guy. We were sitting at breakfast, and I knew I was going to teach over this. And I said, I just, there's some people in the Bible, there's some things in the Bible I just don't understand. And Samson continuing to have the power of God on his life after he goes and sees this harlot, I don't know, but maybe I'll let Justin teach next time and just ask him to teach on why that was still the case. But anyway, he goes in chapter number 16 at the beginning. Says, then went Samson to Gaza and saw there an harlot went in unto her, and it was told the Gazites, saying, Samson is coming hither. So they come past him. They basically they shut the gates down, they close it out, and at midnight Samson gets up and he takes the gates, he takes the doors, the gates, the pillar, and he carries it up to the top and sets it up there. And Silver, I think that was God's first warning. I think that was God's first warning. I think when he woke up there at midnight or got up there at midnight, in verse number 3 it says, and Samson lay till midnight and arose at midnight and took the doors of the gate of the city and the two posts and went away with them, bar and all, and put them upon his shoulders and carried them to the top of the hill that is before Hebron. Here he is, still in the power of God, doing something that a normal man could not do. Still in the power of God. But surely he should have said, whew, that was a close one. Probably shouldn't have been down there. Probably shouldn't have let myself be there. So what he should have learned from his first marriage was the Philistines would be perfectly happy to use a woman against him. And what he should have learned that, again, he's in Gaza. He's not where he's supposed to be. And so he goes to this harlot, and again, he's not where he's supposed to be. He's not doing what he's supposed to be doing. And I believe that was his warning. And so now we get to chapter 16, verse number 4. That was all introduction. 20 minutes introduction, sorry. In verse number 4, it says, and it came to pass afterward. So I don't know how long afterward. I don't know if it's a week afterward, a month afterward, a year afterward. Here's what I know. Samson didn't heed a warning. He didn't heed the warning. He didn't heed the warning from his mom. He didn't heed the warning from his dad. Again, God used the first wife. God used the first wife and said, okay, well, I'm going to have an issue with the Philistines, and I'm going to let this happen. But that didn't mean that the next time Samson loved a woman, it had to be a Philistine woman. It only said that about the first one. But from that point on, now it's Samson in the lust of his flesh, the lust of his eyes, was in control. So you get to chapter 16, verse number 4. It says, it came to pass afterward that he loved a woman in the valley of Sorek, whose name was Delilah. I'm going to say this, and it's pretty obvious in the chapter, but I'm just going to say it in case I forget to say it, because sometimes I forget to say stuff. It says Samson loved a woman. It never said that woman loved Samson. It never said that woman loved Samson. There was a possibility the first girl loved Samson, the one he married. It's a possibility. But in the verse number 1, when he goes to a harlot in Gaza, she didn't love Samson. She didn't love Samson. And now he goes to Delilah. And I don't know. Again, I don't know. Sometimes you try and picture, like, what did she look like? Like, what did she like? I don't know how she was able. And I'm going to use it. I'm going to use a term, and forgive me for using it. How she was able to cast this spell over him, like she was a witch, and she cast a spell over him. But he was blind long before he was ever blind. You ever talk to someone and you're trying to be a friend to them, and Joe, you remember when Dakota talked to you and Bub talked about distractions, and sometimes you talk to someone and you're like, hey, and you're like, I just don't see it that way. Because the devil has blinded you long before he ever blind you. I don't see it that way. And some people are good. They're good at arguing. They're good at coming up with reasons. They're good at excuses. And so here's Samson, and he's down there, and it said he loved a woman in the valley of Sorek, whose name was Delilah. And the lords of the Philistines came up unto her and saith unto her, entice him. They wanted to know what Samson's weakness was. They'd actually found Samson's weakness. It was a woman. They found his weakness. It was a woman. They needed to find his weakness to get to where his strength was. So they said, entice him. Now we have his weakness. Now find out where his great strength lies so that we can take it away from him. And just so I'm clear, the devil is looking for every person, every man, woman, child in here. He's looking for your weakness so he can entice you, so he can take your strength from you. And so if you remember, Balaam wanted to curse the children of Israel. He took the money. He's like, I'm going to curse the children of Israel. And God would not let him do it. But he found a way. He said, I tell you what, I can't do it, but if you can get them into sin, God will judge them because they're sinning. And so even though he couldn't curse them, he said, if you can just get them to sin, so what did they do? Same thing. And so here it says, the lords of the Philistines came up unto her and said unto him, entice him and see wherein his great strength lieth. and by what means we may prevail against him, that we may bind him to afflict him, and we will give thee every one of us 1,100 pieces of silver. I believe it said there were 5 of them. It's 5,500 pieces of silver. That's a big old chunk of change. And she said, challenge accepted. Samson loved her. She didn't love him. And verse number 6 says, and Delilah said to Samson, she just takes right off immediately. Tell me, I pray thee, wherein thy great strength lieth, and wherewith thou mightest be bound to afflict thee. So she just takes right off. She's like, hey, I want to know. Tell me. And y'all know, like if you're married in here, like your wife, they know how to twist. If you love me, and like, oh, sweetie, please, I mean, Jake and Martha sitting back there, and Jake's like, what'd you cook for supper? And she's like, oh, can we just go to McDonald's, please, Jake? Let's go to McDonald's. And but you understand, like, they know how to just, I mean, Chris, is it not true? Just please say amen. It's true. You're not agreeing with me? It doesn't happen? Brother Wayne will acknowledge that it's true, but he's asleep right now. But y'all understand, like they know how to just please, and they can be so sweet and so kind and just speak so soft, and you're like, and then you just feel bad for saying no. Well, sometimes you feel bad for saying no, but anyway. So in this verse, he said. So it says in verse number 7, and Samson said unto her, if they bind me with 7, it became a game with Samson. And a lot of times you think you're playing a game, or you think you're winning at the game, and you don't realize it's not a game. It's not a game, Silver. It's not a game. It's like, oh, it's fine. It's no big deal. It's fine. I'm just having a good time. I'm just having a good time. I'm just saying, I'm just saying a little thing here, a little thing there, a little thing here, a little thing there. Hey, it's fine. It's no big deal. It's no big deal. You're like, hey, why don't you want to go out with me sometime? You want to go eat dinner with me sometime? It's all fun and games when you're just saying, ah. And then she says yes, and now you're like, oh, what am I going to do now? She said yes. It was just fun. We were just playing around. But then she said yes. Now you're stuck, Silver. Well, what are you going to do now? She said yes. Oh, my. I'm in trouble. It was just a game before. It was just a high fun, I'm just getting a little bit of attention. Just a little bit. Just enough. Just to stroke your ego a little bit. It happens to married men too. I mean, again, this is, we're talking to Samson. He's not married right here. But it happens to married men too. Married men can have the same thing happen. They start going to the same restaurant over and over and over again, and asking for the same waitress over and over and over again. And then she starts writing little notes on the check, like on the little receipt, before them to pay. Next thing you know, her phone number's on there. And he's got a choice. He's got a choice. It was just a game for a little while. It's just, it's kind of fun, cute little whoever showing me some attention. Here I am, an old man, now this cute little thing's showing me some attention. It was just a game for a little while. It's not a game anymore. It's not a game. And so it's just a game with Samson. He's like, if they do this, 7 green withs that were never dried, then I shall be weak as another man. So look what happens. Then the lords of the Philistines brought up to her, so she has to go and say, hey, 7 green withs. So they go get 7 green withs. They bring them up to her. Next time here's Samson, he's laying around, and they brought up them. Now there were men lying in wait, abiding with her in the chamber, and she said unto him, the Philistine. So she binds him with these 7 green withs. And as soon as she gets him bound, Samson here said, this is so funny. This is so funny. This is great. This is wonderful. And as soon as she gets him bound, she says, hey, the Philistines, there are Philistines there, Jake. And he jumps up and he breaks the wrist as a thread of tow. That's why I brought you up there, Jake. Is broken when it toucheth the fire, so his strength was not known. I'm just going to tell you guys, that's all the warning you need right there. That's all the warning you need. This woman is not a good woman. And this woman does not love me. And if I stick around any longer, she's going to take me down. And again, it's a shame because here is a man that has, present tense, has at this moment the power of God on his life. But not for long. Riley, not for long. Again, his mom and dad couldn't talk to him. They said, why don't you just please love a girl from our country, from Israel? Why can't you do that? One of your kindred, one of them. They couldn't talk to him. The men of Judah couldn't talk to him. They done basically said it was us or you, and so we're giving them you. They couldn't come talk to him. Samson had no one to keep him accountable. And whether you like it or not, you need somebody to hold you accountable. Men, sometimes you need your wife to hold you accountable. Wives, sometimes you need your husband to hold you accountable. Single men, I hope you got somebody. Somebody that says, hey, I don't like what I'm seeing. Hey, I don't like what I'm hearing. Hey, I don't like where you're going. Hey, I don't like this. And as a man, you're like, I'm a man. Tell me what to do. Tell me. I mean, again, more stupid things have been done that were preceded with the statement, hey, watch this. And someone in the pride, in their pride and arrogancy said, I'm a man, don't tell me what to do. I'll go to the gym anyway. I'll go to the gym. I'm fine. And only God saved you, Joseph, and brought you to your senses before it was too late. Only God did that. But Dakota was trying to hold Joseph accountable. And every man, every woman, every child, so tired of my mom and dad. I'm so sick and tired. My mom and dad say this, and don't do this, and don't go there, and don't say this, and don't do that. Why? Because a lot of times we've went there. We've already been there. We've already done that. We already know how the story ends. But Samson had no one to hold him accountable. What if Samson had one friend? And he went down and said, man, you ain't going to believe what happened. You ain't believe what happened. I met this girl, and man, I tell you what, she is smoking. She is smoking hot. And like I love her, and I think she loves me. But, you know, the other day she asked me where my great strength lies. And the first thing she did when I told her what it was do the thing that it was. And then she actually, it says in one spot that she afflicts him. One friend that said, I don't know, bro, but maybe she's not the one for you. Maybe she's not the one for you. Maybe, just maybe, you should look somewhere else. Maybe you should look in another direction. Surely there's another woman somewhere that looks as good as her. Surely there's another woman that smells as good as her. Surely there's another woman that talks as smooth as her. But he didn't have a friend. He did not have one friend to hold him accountable. He did not have one person, not one time do you see, after the moment his mom and dad said, please don't marry that girl. Not one time do you see someone say, Samson, probably shouldn't do this. we'll continue on. We may get into this again next week. Then now in verse number 10, and Delilah said unto Samson, behold, thou hast mocked me and told me lies. Again, back to it's just a game with Samson. It's just a game. Mocked me and told me lies. Now tell me, I pray thee, wherewith thou mightest be bound. And he said unto her, if they bind me fast with new... It almost appears, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I don't understand English, but it almost appears Joseph, like he knows the Philistines are there, and he's like, if they bind me, if they bind me fast with new ropes, it almost appears that he knows they're there. Riley, how dumb can you be? She's asking questions. How can I make you weak as any other man? And he says, oh, I'll do this. And he's just toying with her. And she has people lying in wait. And Samson's like, man, it's kind of weird. I come to see this girl, and there's a bunch of guys sitting around here. And her question's not, can I cook you something nice for supper? She's like, how can I make you weak as any other man? And he's like, oh, if they bind me with new ropes. Who are these guys? Like, I'll come to see you, and there's a bunch of guys in the house. How am I supposed to feel about this relationship? He never asked that question. He says, oh, we're still playing the game. And they bind me with new ropes. Watch how strong I am, Delilah. Look how strong I am. Watch, I'm going to make these Philistines look ridiculous. And they're going to bind me with these new ropes. Delilah therefore took new ropes and bound him therewith, and said unto him, the Philistines be upon thee, Samson. And there were liars in wait abiding in the chamber. And he brake them from off his arms like a thread. Again, she was telegraphing. Big, huge letters. Samson, if you enter, eventually you will die. When lust hath conceived, it bringeth forth sin. And sin, when it is finished, bringeth forth death. And Samson had no one to say, Samson, she's going to get you eventually. She is going to get you eventually. She is going to take you down. She is going to destroy you. No one. Lord willing, next Sunday we'll continue on in this right here. But like I said, again, it may not be a woman. It may not be a woman. But do you guys have, again, men's home guys, do y'all have anyone? Again, Brother Jamie's not always going to be there. Brother Aspen's not always going to be there. Y'all are going to graduate out of the men's home. 6 months, 8 months, whatever y'all are in the program, y'all are going to graduate out of the men's home. You better have someone to hold you accountable. You better understand that the devil wants to take you out and wants to put a blot on Concord Baptist Church, on the Mercy for Men's Home. He wants to put that thing, and he wants to take you guys out one by one by one by one. If you don't take it serious and heed the warning. Again, the warning was right there. It's right there. It's like, hey, Samson, I am going to take you out eventually. Just tell me where your great strength lies. The warning was there. But he had no one. He had no one to say, Samson, let's get out of here. Let's go back home. Let's get away from this. It's a bad environment. It's a bad place. Bad things are going down right here. Like, this is not good. Thank you.